Claudia. I'm a program manager here at Closed. I'm joined by Laura, who is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at G2. Today, we're going to discuss win-loss programs and how those fit into voice of customer programs. So thank you, Laura, for being here. And we'd love to start by hearing about yourself and your role at G2.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. At G2, I lead our product marketing team. So we're a small but mighty team that oversees both product and partner marketing efforts. And we do all of the traditional kind of product marketing roles of launching new things, working with the product team, launching integrations and features, but we also oversee our win-loss program and a lot of the collection of our customer voice and customer sentiment.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us and bringing all that expertise to Win-Loss Week. Another question I have for you is, G2 being a feedback collection company, what made you decide to start a win-loss program? And did you have any pushback when you wanted to start that?
Yeah, so we're really passionate about customer feedback, as you would imagine. And I think that customer feedback can come in many different forms. So of course, we do use G2 to get feedback on G2 and reviews from our clients. But we find that something like win-loss captures a different part of the experience and a different part of the process. So we really wanted to validate some assumptions and hypotheses we had about what was happening, particularly during the sales process and the renewal process. And we find that when people leave reviews on G2, for example, or maybe talk to us, during their customer life cycle, they're usually sharing more their experience using the tool, what they love about it, what we can improve on, but they're not really sharing as much about their experience going through the sales process, maybe why they bought, what messaging resonated with them, things like that. So by adding a formal win-loss program, we could track some of those trends about what was happening on the front end, why we were winning and losing, if competitors were coming into play, and get feedback from that part of the life cycle that was maybe a gap for us before.
Awesome. That's great to hear. It's great to hear that those are complementary and that they're not mutually exclusive, right? You need both your own work on your website as well as the win-loss program. But I did want to ask you, because there's different moving parts, how do you work your win-loss program into the overall voice of customer program?
Yeah, we have a couple of different touch points. So we have a traditional win-loss program where we have the interviews, the in-depth interviews, which is obviously smaller scale but deeper. So going really deep to understand why a customer purchased or didn't, renewed or didn't. And we use that to inform cross-functionally a lot of our stakeholders and initiatives, whether it's something that seems off in the sales process itself that we can flag to our sales team, or whether it's a product improvement that we're starting to hear frequent questions about. And then we supplement that with other types of voice of the customer feedback. Our product team spends a lot of time sharing prototypes and interviewing customers in that type of setting. We have a customer health survey that we do just to kind of get a gut check throughout the relationship on how they're feeling. And then, of course, things like the review program that we have from our own product, kind of, drinking our own champagne with that. So I think different customers prefer to interact in different ways, prefer to give you feedback in different ways, and there's lots of different channels that you can kind of activate. Then the trickier part maybe becomes synthesizing some of that so that you're looking for trends across those different parts of the program and really identifying those key things that you need to take action on.
Great, great. And I guess a quick follow-up to that is, are you mostly focusing on current customers? Do you also chat to potential customers as part of your voice customer program?
We do chat with potential customers through our win-loss program, in the sense that we interview lost customers, lost renewals. So in those cases, they unfortunately aren't customers right now, but of course, we're always looking for win-back opportunities or improvements we can make to better meet their needs in the future. So yeah.
Great, great. Well, it's been good to hear about how you have structured this voice of customer program, and within that, the win-loss program. So how do you go from gathering those insights to then leveraging the insights within your organization?
Yeah, from a really tactical standpoint, we have some things that have worked well for us. We share our win-loss insights with most of the kind of leadership and management team at multiple levels, all the way from executive down to some of our kind of frontline sales managers. And one of the best ways we found to build that connectivity is through a Slack channel. So we have a Slack channel where new interviews flow in from our win-loss program. And then we see a lot of natural activity. Just people see, oh, there's something new in the channel. I'm going to go read it. We get a lot of executive engagement there in comments. And then we can also use that as a way to kind of proactively tag and alert people so that they can read one that might be specific to their segment or, a piece of constructive feedback that they could deliver to their team. At this time, we don't open that channel to everybody at the company. We do kind of keep it to leaders and managers, just because sometimes there could be sensitive information about a deal that comes through or tricky feedback to deliver. And we'd rather have the manager have that kind of coaching moment and deliver some of that feedback versus having it out there for everyone and their peers to read. So we have a lot of transparency, but we also are strategic about how we've created that connection.
Great, that makes sense. And I have a quick follow-up there is, it sounds like there's different levels that are looking at these insights. I am curious, are you also going cross-departmentally, or what kind of teams are looking at the feedback here?
Yeah. So it's run by our product marketing team and our marketing team. So of course we're in there. Our product team is in there quite heavily, looking again for those opportunities to provide more value, or maybe sticking points that we're hearing frequently are an issue. We ask a lot of questions about, why they decided to buy or not to buy, to try to understand if there are product deficits or kind of product areas we should lean in even more. So they love that. And then the sales team is in there. I will say they're busy, again, kind of that sales manager level. So they're probably more responsive when we call out, share, or tag them on something. But our executive team and our senior leaders are very proactive about reading, all of the interviews that come in, reviews that come in on G2, and they want to be close to that voice of the customer. So we're really lucky to have that level of executive engagement. A lot of times they're kind of commenting on things before I even read it. So really, as soon as things come in, they're eager to get that connection to the customer.
Great, great. And another question I have for you, Laura, is we've talked about who's looking at the insights, maybe this Slack channel you have used. How do you make sure that you're engaging with these stakeholders at the right time in your organization?
Yeah, so in addition to the Slack channel that's more real time, we do quarterly roll-ups as well. So we'll put together a quarterly report of trends that we're seeing, key loss reasons, key win reasons. We'll usually include some customer verbatims in there. Again, just tying everything back to the voice of the customer so that they can kind of get the feel for not just the stats, but really what people are saying and how they're feeling in these moments. And then with that, that's a great place for us to bring in, again, those insights from other parts of the program. So what did we see in our kind of monthly cadence of renewal surveys that goes out? What did we see in any trends that we were collecting through other feedback channels? And we try to pair that with what actions are we taking. So we usually include a table that's kind of like, here's what we maybe heard last quarter, and here's what we've created in response to that, whether it's a new asset, some new training, new messaging, things like that, so that we can show progress, not just that we're collecting the data, but also that we're using that, to improve our business and get closer to our goals.
That's great. It sounds like you have wide variety of insights, whether it be your product or your sales process, etc. And it sounds like you are sharing those insights and tying those to actionable steps. I am curious, how do you make sure that the insights are relevant to different, maybe departments or different levels of stakeholders within your organization?
I think that's really come to us being proactive about getting them in front of the right people. So we do have some kind of norms, and we're working through those, as this is a newer program for us, a little over a year of having kind of a formal win-loss program. So actually at the beginning of this year, as we were looking at how we can improve, we did kind of write up some rules of engagement and things like that. So we wanted to get a feel for how teams wanted to interact and how we could be a good partner to them. Questions like, Do you want to go in and read things and tag your teammates, or would you like us to proactively tag you and deliver those insights? So we kind of have different working norms with different teams to ensure that we're engaging the right people. And we did go through the effort of writing some of that out so that we could have clean agreements on who is responsible for actually engaging with and actioning on the feedback.
Great, that's great. And before we close here, Laura, I wanted to ask you, what's next? What do you do to continue evolving your win-loss program?
I think what we're working on now is, after a year and a half, 2 years with the program, going deeper with some of the questions we ask in the program and really taking a look at the interviews and great. We've confirmed a lot of things that we believed. I think going into this, we had some big projects on the horizon, packaging changes, things like that. And we had an inkling of what people wanted or where they were getting stuck, but we wanted to validate that with data. And so in the first year, a big part of it was collecting and validating some of that. Now that we know what some of our common challenges are, we're wanting to go deeper to be more actionable. So, okay, if you said you didn't get ROI, what does that mean? And like working with other stakeholders in our company to understand the gaps for them. So we are engaging right now, for example, with our customer success leaders to try to understand what would make the data more useful for them, and what level of specificity do they need to be able to make changes to their processes that might support a better overall customer experience. So it feels like in some ways we understand a lot of what we were looking to understand at the highest levels. We're not right now seeing a lot of change in that, say month to month, quarter to quarter. We're seeing common themes that keep emerging. So now we're trying to dig deeper into those common themes to really understand even more about the customer pain or customer success.
Great, thank you, thank you. And lastly, I wanted to give you a chance to just chat about the value overall of win-loss programs, and within that, in the bigger scope of the Voice of Customer program for G2.
Yeah, I think, as I said, of course, we're passionate about voice of customer and kind of having that authentic and varied source of feedback. So when we look at the value overall, we're really looking at how can it impact our total go-to-market. So ideally, we would want to see some kind of harder metrics like improved win rates and things like that with some of the changes that we might be making, acceleration through the process if there were points where people were kind of getting stuck. But we also love like learning from our successful customers and looking at that as, okay, what makes someone a successful customer? What is maybe a best fit customer trend that we're seeing in certain types of customers, or certain actions that those customers are taking, because we can develop those into best practices that can be scaled across other customers. So if we've got some customers who are really successful and kind of have come up with great things that we can share with others, we love to kind of take that real user feedback. I think people like to learn from their peers and either invite them to work with us on a guide for something, or just take those learnings to roll out across our wider customer base. So you have to get out and hear what people are saying. I think you can't always just assume, even if you've been somewhere a really long time or you're really, really deep and familiar with a product, you can't always assume that everything that your customers are thinking. And so that constant flow of customer feedback from people who are using and deep everyday users of your product, as well as from those decision makers who might be part of the sales process, really helps like just ensure that what you're out there marketing and selling is hitting the mark with your real users, and not maybe something that you're kind of just inventing in your head, something fluffy.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to hear how G2 is going about listening to their customers, new and existing, won and lost, and taking those insights to overall continue to improve your business. I think that's a great example for others building their own win-loss programs. So thank you for being willing to share these insights and for being part of Win-Loss Week.
Of course. Thank you for having me.